We're going to meet Flash and Captain Ahab from Happy Days and Special Times. Find out who they are coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Fox 43 studio on the former Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. We're focused on Happy Days and Special Times, and we're visiting with Jay Bultz, an attorney and mediator. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Oh, my pleasure.
Incredible opportunity to highlight something you've been so intimately involved in, and obviously you're the impetus for having us gotten Debby Stephenson to come in. She'll be in here in a couple of minutes to talk about Happy Days and Special Times. It's meant a lot to you, Jay. We wanted to talk real quick about yourself, though. Are you originally from the area?
Yeah, I'm from Myrtle Beach, grew up here, went to school here, and then off of college at Carolina, USC in Columbia, and make that distinction. That's South Carolina.
That's right.
And ended up down in New Orleans for several years, pursuing a career in commercial art and photography, and then went back to school and went to law school in New Orleans at Loyola, and returned home to Myrtle Beach in 1984.
1984. So you were gone for a little while, Jay.
About 7 years. Yeah.
Golly. You still have family in the area?
My mother's still here. My siblings are scattered across the country, but we keep in touch and get together here at the beach. And, But just me and my mom and my children, Monty and Mark, who are the main focus of my life.
Absolutely, Jay. I do know that. Where did you attend school, Jay, when you were growing up here in Myrtle Beach?
The schools that I went to don't exist anymore, but just like the Myrtle Beach that I grew up in doesn't exist anymore. But I went to the old Myrtle Beach Elementary School, which was located where the main post office is now, and then went to the Myrtle Beach High School, which is where the Kmart is now. So
Wow.
It's been a lot of changes.
Times have changed. And you set up your practice in Myrtle Beach right in 1984 when you returned?
I started out, I've always been involved in various charities and helping out different organizations, and I wanted to immediately start out by giving of myself to an organization, and I was single in those days, and so I started working for legal aid. It was called Neighborhood Legal Assistance Program. So I did that for a couple of years, and then went out on my own and started my own practice in 1986, and been sharing space with Richard Foltz, who's a real estate attorney.
And do you specialize in any one area of law?
Well, about half my practice is litigation, and half of that is in family court, and then the other half of my practice is mediation, and again, about half of that is in family court. In 1993, I got involved in mediation and just saw it as a better way to go for people. Litigation can be brutal. It's not that I don't enjoy a good fight in the courtroom, but I recognize that it's not always the answer, and mediation offers a lot of opportunities to settle their disputes and to do it quickly and to do it a whole lot less expensively than litigation. So I've been promoting that for some time, and the world is catching on that there's alternative dispute resolution out there.
So for viewers who may not be familiar with alternative dispute resolution, what are your responsibilities as a mediator for the court, and how are you assigned to a case?
I sit as a neutral third party and help facilitate communications and negotiations for parties to come together and resolve their differences. And the fact that I've been a litigator for so many years, a trial attorney, I can tell people what to expect if they go to court, but here's a better way to do it. Now, I am assigned cases by the court. In particular, the family court, the chief administrative judge assigns cases to me because she knows that I do a good job, and I handle a lot of cases through mediation, and also have many cases referred to me by other attorneys, as well as people find me through the yellow pages under mediation and come directly to me and never even see a lawyer. They come to me to resolve their differences, and we do all the necessary paperwork, and they take it to court themselves and get it resolved.
Are there lots of mediators in the area?
There's not a whole lot. It's relatively new in this part of the country, but there's a handful of mediators for family court and a handful for civil court.
Mm-hmm. Can you share real quick with the viewers about some cases you've been involved in where you represented abused or neglected children?
All attorneys under the Supreme Court rules are required to do pro bono service, and we are allowed to put our names on certain lists with certain courts. Mm-hmm. And the list that I put my name on is the DSS case list, so that I would be appointed as an attorney and guardian to represent abused and neglected children. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've done throughout my entire career here, going on nearly 20 years. And it's tough. It's tough duty to see just how irresponsible parents can be towards their children. It's shocking, but when you know that you're protecting children and getting them into a better environment, it's a good thing.
Just like the same commitment you had in '84 when you arrived in town and wanted to give back. That's really
with the legal aid. Yes.
Absolutely. You're involved in so many community groups, Jay. If you could think of any in particular that you're involved in, community groups that you're presently working.
Well, at the moment, I'm primarily focusing on Myrtle Beach, and I was appointed several years ago as a board member of the Downtown Redevelopment Corporation. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with that board for about 3 or 4 years now, and I enjoy the work. It's a lot of work, a lot of discussion about how we can revitalize the downtown. The other day, I saw that you had Doug Wendell on your show, mm-hmm. and I was listening and to what he had to say, and he was formerly one of the board members with us, mm-hmm. and he was a tremendous asset to the DRC, but he had to withdraw, but he still is a good resource for us. But the DRC is involved in a lot of ambitious and dynamic projects. We've got things happening all over the place that mm-hmm. You've already seen some, and there's more coming down the pike.
Absolutely, Jay. Obviously, so exciting to think of all the things you're involved in. The big focus today is Happy Days and Special Times. And Debbie will be coming in a minute. Time has flown. We've only got a couple of minutes, but we sure wanted to talk about your involvement in Happy Days and Special Times.
Happy Days and Special Times came to my attention when I was involved with the Sertoma Club, and I was president of Sertoma for a while, and that was one of the charities that Sertoma gave money to, and it's for children with cancer. And I have a very special connection with that, and that I lost my leg to cancer when I was 19, and they only expected me to live for just a year and a half. And so that obviously made a huge impact on my life, and I've been involved in numerous charities. As I said before, I was area coordinator for Special Olympics in this area. I worked with the March of Dimes and been involved in so many different church and community groups. This one really caught my attention, and I went down as a volunteer myself. And let me tell you, I've always considered myself to be a very tough guy. I'm a trial attorney. I feel that, I'm a pretty tough person, and nothing shakes my world. But there wasn't a night that I didn't go back to camp and back to my room and cry myself to sleep. It was just such an incredible experience, and I did that for a number of years. Recently, I've gotten involved in some other things, and I could not go to camp, but it has totally redefined my definition of courage and has just totally changed my outlook on life to work with these children who are facing such adversity. Mm-hmm. It just puts everything in perspective in your life. And these children are just so courageous to live their lives as if there's no tomorrow at camp.
The inspiration, the amazement is what has made Jay Bultz continue to commit time to Happy Days and Special Times. You heard him say there are children that live to go to camp, and many of them don't live long beyond camp. Debbie Stephenson, you'll meet in a second. It's part of the reason why camp's around. Jay, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Again, my pleasure.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Fox 43 studio in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on happy days and special times, and we're visiting with its founder and executive director, Debby Stephenson.
Good morning,
Debbie.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Incredible to think that camp kicks off this Saturday.
It's kind of scary. It gets to 100 days in 7. We have 237 children coming, 170 volunteers coming, some that have never met before, so these new counselors are scared to death. But it's 100 days in 7. It's the most magical experience, and I can't wait.
Simply, you put 100 days of fun into 7 days.
Into 7.
That is amazing.
Yeah, some of these children won't be here next year, and so we want to give them many tomorrows today.
Debbie, real quick about yourself. Where were you from, and what brought you to South Carolina?
Oh, don't tell my husband that's sitting over there, but I was married before.
Oh, wow.
So my first husband brought me here through the Air Force.
Is that right?
But I'm originally from East Aurora, outside of Buffalo, New York, and I started this as a realtor.
Okay,
so I was a realtor
great.
for years, and it was a project, and I love what I do. I wanted to do something that made a difference. And I read an article in McCall's magazine about a program. But I fell up in Rochester, New York, and I had a daughter with a brain tumor, and he was just devastated. And I'd say the daddy was devastated because, you men are brought up to believe that you can protect your children and take care of your family. And so when something like this happens, it totally takes everything out of whack. And so this daddy went all over the nation looking for a cure, and there was none. So one day he was getting ready for work, and in the background he heard a woman from Michigan talking about a camp she started for children with cancer in there. And he said, well, that's what I will do. And I thought, well, that's what I will do. I don't know where that came from, Greg, because I hate camping. So I really believe this is God's work here because I love what I do, and it's making a difference in these children's lives. And, when I started Happy Days, I really didn't know so many children had cancer, and I thought it was in faraway places and very remote. But sadly, it's very prevalent, and in your area here in Myrtle Beach, it's everywhere. You have a lot of children that are struggling with cancer just in your own little area here.
Is that right?
You probably have about 22 children here in your area. That's just children. Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, within our viewing area, obviously up in the Florence area, southeastern North Carolina, do many of them find out about Happy Days?
Yes, I serve the state. Everything's free for these children. I serve the state. I have quite a few children from Florence, a lot of children from Sumter. Our camp is actually near there. We're at Camp Bob Cooper, which is in the Somerton Manning area.
Okay.
So that's, I think that's pretty close to your, that might even be your viewing
absolutely,
area.
right
so we have
on
a lot
the
of
edge.
children from there.
Very definitely. And, I think few people are aware of the commitment that realtors make to their communities.
Aren't they wonderful?
This was an avenue that this really worked well for you. Can you tell us about the Make America Better campaign and how it provided the springboard for Happy Days and special times?
I was made the chairman of the Make America Better board for a local community called Somerville, which is just outside Charleston.
Right.
And I went to the president and said, this is great, but now that I are one, what is it? And she said, oh, it's just something to show the community that not only do we like to do business with them, but we like to do something good for the community. Well, then I found out to compete against all the other boards of your size in the nation for the best project. So I figured we'd just go ahead and win that. And so I took a local nursing home on and, did all the stuff you have to do, and we won first place. So then I was made the state chairman. That's when I read the article in this and that with about Teddy, and we won first place in the nation 4 years in a row for Happy Days with the state, out of all the other states in the nation. But with the realtors, a lot of times realtors aren't perceived as being community-oriented, and they're very community-oriented. Your group up here, you have a Mortgage Bankers Lenders Association, and they have a lot of the realtors that do that with them. They raised $23,000 for us recently. It's a lot of hard work to raise the money. We have $1 million budget, so it takes a lot of dollars to raise the necessary funds.
Happy Days and Special Times has $1 million budget?
But it's more than camp. It's it's an ongoing thing. I have about 400 children that we serve on a regular basis throughout the state. Plus, we have other children in other states that we serve also. I don't know how much time you have, because I can tell you story after story of how we get these children.
My gal, I'm just so glad Jay came in to introduce you this morning. That was wonderful. Following him and someone who's really made a commitment himself, because you gave that opportunity. You provided that for so many of the counselors and volunteers.
It changes your life. Your priorities change. Can I tell you about the first child that made me know this is...
Absolutely.
Her name was Michael, and we had the first year we had camp. It was a year and a half after I'd started Happy Days, and a little apprehensive, not really sure if this was the right thing to do, if this was going to make a difference. And So I got to camp, and I had 29 children. This one girl came, her name was Michael, and she was 11 years old, and she had Wilms tumor. Now, Wilms tumor is if you have to get cancer, it's a great one to get when you're little. When you're 11 and 12, it becomes critical. So, but I didn't know that. I was so new to this. So she came to camp, and she went up to her tent. It was very primitive. She was in a tent, mosquito netting with her favorite friend. And within an hour, she had changed. And I remember her telling me 6 months later when I was talking about what happened, she said she went up to her tent, and her counselor was telling, come on, girls, let's go for lunch now. And there was two girls behind her talking about their cancer. They had their hair back, and they were from Greenville. And saying, oh, man, remember how we used to lose our hair? Remember people just stare at us? Remember all that medicine? Remember this? Remember that? Remember this? Remember that? And Michael turned around and said, gee, I wish I had a friend like that. And realized at that moment that she did have a friend like that, because these children were talking about everything she was going through, and she wasn't the odd man out. She wasn't different. She wasn't strange. Well, when she went home, her parents called and said, what in the world did you do with Michael? She's a changed person. The doctors can't believe the same person. We can't believe the same person. It's a changed person. So I asked Michael, and I said, in fact, I called her Star, because I used her for any media I had, because she was so positive. And so when I came to camp, I knew I was going to die. And when I left camp, I knew I was going to live. And she's now 33, and every time I say it, I get goosebumps. She's one of our volunteer counselors. But that let me know that this was bigger than me. It was something we had to continue. It couldn't be just a project anymore, that this made a difference in children's lives. And so it's changed my life dramatically. I love working with these children. They're appreciative, they're loving, their priorities. I love all children, but these children seem to have priorities. Their priorities are different. I can go on from story to story. You're going to have to stop me some, because there's so many stories.
Absolutely. We cut Jay a little short earlier so that you could talk a little more, knowing that camp's coming up this Saturday, and this is just 1 week a year. 1 week. Truly.
This is just 1 week a year. And these kids, I've had calls since February with the kids saying, when's camp? We can't wait, and they start to pack.
Right.
They just cannot wait till camp. On the other hand, we have other things throughout the year we do. I have this one boy, his name's Chris, and he was 15 when I got him, and he was telling me the other day that he was 15 and it was horrible. He lost his hair and didn't know what to do, and the treatments were nasty. It was just a horrible experience for him. And I went to meet him in December, and he said this crazy woman came out in my room and did all this crazy stuff, which was me, of course, and I wear flash hats and silly hair and make all sorts of stupid stuff. And he said to him, when you left, I thought, oh, I hope I don't have to go through that again. He said, but then you came back, and and you talked about the Disney trip. He said, and I went on the Disney trip. He said, and that literally changed my life. He said, I was at Universal, and we'd done the Disney, we were doing the Universal, and I was sitting out there in my wheelchair and realizing that I can live and that I don't have to make this a horrible experience. And this might be one of the most wonderful experiences that I'm going to experience in my life, that this has changed my life forever. He says, and I now credit Happy Days for saving my life, because I realized by being with other kids like me and seeing others that had been there and were off this treatment now, that this was my life, and it was going to be a changed life, and I was going to make a difference in people's lives. And we call him Wall Street. He's so incredibly intelligent. And camp would not normally be his persona. He's much more serious than that. But he wouldn't miss camp. He comes back every year and helps with the kids. And we get him in clown outfits and doing silly, stupid stuff. He wants to be President of the United States. That's his goal, to be President of the United States.
Right.
But we've got some great pictures when he does his campaign. But it's him. And we have another young man that was diagnosed when he was 14 with Ewing sarcoma, and then he moved. He moved to Florida, and he had a relapse right before he left, and then he had another relapse, and now he's in Washington State. And so I heard about this, and I called him and said, Chris, I understand you've had this relapse again. And I called him in January, the end of January. I said, I know this is not a small comfort, but our Disney trip's coming up, and would you like to go? Now, I haven't got a clue how I'm going to get him from Washington State to Orlando. I haven't got a dime to pay for it. But I feel compelled to offer it. And, of course, I always invite the siblings. The child has a disease. The family has cancer. It affects the whole family dramatically. So I knew I'd have to get both of them. Again, I trusted in God, because I knew it would happen. Well, his mom called and said, what a difference in Chris. He is so beyond excited about this trip. Now, there was nothing more they could do for this child. This third relapse is reoccurrence is terrible, but the third one's even worse. And there's nothing more they could do for him. So anyway, we got him to Disney. Volunteers helped pay for his sisters and his way. Plus, the doctors wanted the mom to come because they thought he'd be really sick. Doing great. Went home. Because he was doing so well, he was offered an experimental medicine, which he wouldn't have had just a few months earlier. So he took that. Sadly, it's not working. It's not working, but he's still living, and he's still doing relatively well, though we don't expect a positive result as such. But that gave him the whatever you have to do to keep on fighting. And you never know if a miracle's going to happen in the meantime. So it's, as you see a need, you feel a need. You never know when it might be you. There, but for the grace of God, go ourselves. And so you want to put the hand out, the encouragement, help them out, do whatever you have to do to keep them going.
Absolutely. That's so great that on the trips the siblings are able to do they come to camp as well?
Oh, yeah. I can't even begin to tell you how important it is, because many times the sibling, the child has a disease and they've got a lot of attention, a lot of presence, a lot of stuff going on with them, and what they have to go through is dreadful. They have to grow up really fast. But the sibling, your family that you had is all of a sudden no longer, because your father's here, your mother's at the hospital all the time, your brother or sister's at the hospital all the time. You're shuffled from pillar to post, friends to family. You don't have any stability, and then everyone is saying, how's your brother or sister? Let me give this to them. Let me give this to them. Let me do this for them. Them. And they ask, what about me? Everyone always asks about my brother or sister, but no one ever asks about me. Well, these children are future leaders also. They didn't ask for this. It's not that they resent it, but yes, they do resent it, because they don't understand all this. I mean, their family just changed dramatically. Then they used to be able to go for pizza. They used to be able to go do certain things. Now they can't because there's no money. Or their brother and sister's blood counts are down, so they can't go. We're going to go to the movies tomorrow. Yay! Well, no, we can't go. Your brother and sister's blood counts are down, so we can't go anywhere. So it's just and then there's problems within the family. The money situation, the time situation. The husband's trying to go to work and make money to support the family. The mother's in the hospital all the time saying, it must be nice to be able to go to your job. You don't have to be in the hospital all the time. And there's a push me, pull me resentment, and it's just so stressful. So we try and serve the whole family.
Absolutely. That's a magnificent commitment when you think of that, Debbie. Not only when folks from the outside look in and think of just the effort you've put into it, but to enable other volunteers to come in and to be a part of that. And volunteers are so instrumental.
Volunteers are crucial. We have the best. We have the very best volunteers, bar none. They commit themselves, they help do what we have to do, and they raise money, and they give their time for camp, they give their time for all the different events. They're incredible.
Debbie, how much does it cost to sponsor a child for a week at camp?
$250 to sponsor a child for camp. We have 237 children that come to camp. We're minus $30,000 for camp if you have any money out there. So we're struggling right now. We still need a few more volunteers. We still need about 15 male volunteers.
Could you take volunteers this late? Or less than a week from camp kickoff?
Yes, I can, especially males.
Okay.
We never have enough guys.
Who would someone want to call?
I would say you call my office, which is 843-571-4336. That'd probably be the easiest way to do, and just ask. We're a small office. Right. Just say you want to be a volunteer, and we'd know where to put you. 843-571-4336. Or a website of www.hdstkids.org, and you just send that and say you want to be a volunteer.
hdstkids.org. Okay.
Yeah. Flash at hdstkids.org.
Flash.
And and then I'd get it. To
that's a direct email to you. Yeah. Flash is your and Flash is your nickname and has been for a long time, just like Jay was Captain Ahab. Right. That's fantastic. So 30,000 is. I mean, there are also some funds needed. Anything else needed for camp?
Snacks.
Right.
We used to get snacks from Nestle and all these different places, but since 911 and a lot of things have dried out, so we need individually wrapped snacks and drinks. Okay.
And if viewers either had ties to grocery chains or had some avenue to get them to you, would they need to get them to you down in Somerville first, or in your headquarters?
Yeah, we're in Charleston.
Or directly
I'd
to
say
the
call us and we can arrange Because we have people coming from here to camp. We have people from all over the nation that are volunteers for camp.
Absolutely. And the volunteer, you thought possibly up to 15?
21 and above.
Right.
You have to be 21 and above to be a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
I got plenty of kids, so I need adults. And we need them to be counselors for kids. We also need help with maintenance. We need help with special events. We need help with the ropes course. We have all sorts of stuff we do at camps. We need help in a lot of different areas. Woodwork, derby cars. We have lots of areas of need if you're a counselor.
Debbie or Flash, when you think about the most recognized, there's so many things you've learned from your involvement with the children and their families. Can you put into words?
Make today count. Appreciate your health. Appreciate your children. I see people that we tend to take our children for granted. It can drive you insane sometimes, but just appreciate you have healthy children. Mm-hmm. And appreciate your family and live today.
You heard her say it. Make today count. And you heard her stress after talking to Michael and Michael's parents, the amazing words. Oh, wait, that is, when I came to camp, I knew I was going to die. When I left camp, I knew I was going to live. Those are amazing words.
We hear that often.
I'm sure. Debbie, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Captain Ahab and Flash of Happy Days and Special Times for being the loving answer for children with cancer.